Have you ever found yourself stuck in a loop where you're doing all the emotional work, but they're the ones holding all the power? You wait, you hope, you try to be understanding, patient, low-pressured, thinking that maybe if you're just less reactive, less emotional, less needy, they'll finally feel safe enough to come closer. And still, they pull away, they ghost, they need space. And somehow, you're left questioning everything, even your own worth. But what if I told you your avoidant ex is not in control the way you think they are? What if I told you the moment you stop trying to win them back and instead start taking your power back, everything changes? Hi, I'm Jim Rohn, and this video is going to flip the script on everything you've been taught about love, loss, and longing. We're not here to decode their mixed signals or beg for breadcrumbs of affection. We're here to break the cycle. Today, I'll walk you through what avoidant partners never expect. A version of you that's no longer afraid to walk away when your needs aren't met. A version of you that stops proving your worth to someone who didn't know how to hold it. If you've ever felt like you were constantly showing up for someone emotionally unavailable while slowly abandoning yourself in the process, then this video is exactly what you need. Because you don't need to be less. You need to remember who you were before their inconsistency made you shrink. And by the end of this video, you'll see clearly, they didn't have the power. You just hadn't taken yours back yet. So stay with me, because we're about to make the shift they never saw coming. And if you find this content speaks to what you're living through right now, I'd love for you to subscribe and be part of this growing community, a place where clarity, boundaries, and emotional healing come first. Let's begin. The first step in truly taking your power back from an avoidant ex is this: you shift the focus entirely off of them, both publicly and privately. That means no more checking their stories, no more waiting for their texts, no more replaying your last conversation in your mind, hoping to find a sign. And practically, yes. It often starts with removing access, blocking their number, unfollowing them on social media, even muting mutual friends if necessary. But this isn't about being petty, this is about being free. What you're doing here is drawing a firm, visible line, not just for them, but for yourself. You are saying, I will not participate in this emotional tug-of-war anymore. And that matters, because with avoidant partners, the dynamic often becomes a loop, a push and pull, where you end up feeling responsible for their emotional unavailability. You start questioning yourself. Was I too much? Did I trigger them? Maybe if I were more patient, more chill, less emotional. But here's the truth. It was never your responsibility to make someone ready for intimacy. Avoidant individuals often struggle to sit with vulnerability, and when discomfort arises, they shut down. Not because you did something wrong, but because they never learned how to stay close when things get real. And the more you contort yourself trying to keep the peace or prove your worth, the more power you hand over to the exact pattern that's hurting you. By going no contact, you're not just setting a boundary with them, you're healing something much deeper in yourself. You're saying, I've given enough of my peace to this pattern. I'm done carrying the emotional weight for two. And that sends a powerful signal to them, yes, but more importantly to you. You are done bending over backwards, done making excuses for someone else's emotional absence, done being in a relationship that only works when you overcommit and they undercommit. And here's something else you may not realize right away. Every time you broke your own boundary for the sake of connection, it drained you, not just emotionally, but energetically. And regaining that energy starts with refusing to let someone else's inconsistency control your inner world any longer. You are not the reason they couldn't open up. You are not the one who made love unsafe. That was always their work to do. And the moment you finally stop trying to fix it, you create space for something new. A version of you that's no longer stuck in their story but rooted in your own. This is where your power begins to return. Quietly, steadily, authentically. The second major shift in taking your power back, and one of the hardest, is learning how to emotionally detach from needing their validation. And I don't mean this in some abstract self-help way. I mean it in the real, raw, day-to-day way that happens when you've spent so long in a relationship where your peace started depending on their mood. Because here's what happens when you've been with an avoidant partner for a while. Slowly, without even realizing it, you begin to build your sense of security around how they respond to you. You feel anxious when they pull away, relieved when they text you back, confused when they're hot and cold, and over time your nervous system becomes trained to chase any sign that things are okay again. A compliment, a check-in, even a simple good morning can feel like emotional oxygen. That's not connection, that's survival. It's not your fault. This isn't about weakness, it's about wiring. When you're around someone emotionally unpredictable for long enough, your sense of safety becomes hooked on their cues. You wait for them to say you're good, to say we're okay, to say they're still in this. And without that, you spiral. You start checking your phone, replaying conversations, doubting your worth. But here's what you need to understand. This dynamic didn't start because you were too much. It started because avoidant partners rarely give consistent emotional reassurance. And in the absence of that, your system started begging for scraps of certainty. And the avoidant, whether they realize it or not, ends up holding the keys to your emotional stability, not because they earned it, but because you gave them that access over time. Through every moment you put their comfort above your clarity. They never needed to offer you real intimacy, because your need for reassurance became the glue. This is the moment you have to step back and see what's really going on. Not to shame yourself, but to wake up to the loop you've been caught in. A loop where you became someone constantly managing their reactions instead of honoring your own. And once you see that, you take the first real step out of it. You start giving that validation back to the one person who can actually sustain it, you. Not by telling yourself fluffy affirmations, but by practicing something different. Like noticing when you feel triggered by their silence, and instead of reacting, you pause and ask, what part of me just wanted to feel seen? What truth do I already know, even without their confirmation? Because their yes should never hold more weight than your own. This is how you begin to break the cycle, not by waiting for the avoidant to change, but by realizing that you no longer need their emotional permission to feel whole. That's not detachment out of spite, that's self-respect, that's emotional rebalancing. And in many ways, that's the real closure, the one that doesn't come from their apology or clarity, but from your decision to stop tying your worth to someone who couldn't hold it in the first place. You don't need to be chosen to be worthy. You just need to stop abandoning yourself in the hope that someone else will finally choose you. The third shift in reclaiming your power is one of the most misunderstood, but also one of the most transformational. You commit to elevating yourself without making it about them. And yes, I know, that's not always easy, because when you've finally crawled out of the emotional storm of loving someone avoidant, when the fog lifts and you begin to connect the dots, it's natural to feel something bubbling up inside you. Anger, resentment, the ache of knowing how much you gave, how deeply you tried, and how little they seemed to acknowledge it. And maybe there's a part of you that wants them to see it now, to realize what they lost, to regret it, even to hurt a little. That's human. But let me be clear. Revenge energy might feel good for a moment, but it keeps you just as bound to the story as longing ever did. When your growth is secretly fueled by proving a point, you stay energetically hooked to the very pattern you're trying to break free from. And whether you're flaunting your healing or dropping curated hints on social media, you're still playing the game, just wearing a different mask. And here's what happens when you try to weaponize your glow-up. Either your avoidant ex feels validated for having pulled away in the first place, see, I knew they were too much, or worse, they believe they still have power over you because they can see you're still reacting to them, even from a distance. But true healing happens quietly. It's not performative, it's personal. You get to level up not as a strategy to make them look back, but as a decision to finally look forward, toward your own peace. Toward a version of you that doesn't orbit around emotional chaos. A version that says, I no longer need you to understand what you couldn't value while you had it. And trust me, when you do that sincerely, they will notice. Not because you're shouting it, but because silence is louder than proof. When you're no longer accessible emotionally or energetically, they'll feel it. Not because you're punishing them, but because they've lost access to the version of you that kept showing up, no matter how little you got in return. That kind of quiet exit? That's what rattles avoidance the most. Because for someone who's spent their entire emotional life avoiding closeness, the scariest thing isn't being yelled at, it's no longer being needed. And that's exactly what your growth says. I needed you once, I don't anymore. Not because I'm cold, but because I'm clear. You stop trying to be understood by the person who couldn't meet you. You stop explaining your heart to someone who couldn't hold it. And you begin making decisions not from a place of pain, but from a place of choice. Ask yourself this: if your best friend came to you and said, "They left, they weren't consistent, I'm hurt, and I don't know what to do next," what would you say to them? You'd tell them, "You don't need to prove anything, you just need to keep moving. This isn't about showing them what they lost, this is about finding what you still have." And that's the invitation here. To stop performing your healing and start living it, because when you stop trying to make them see and start focusing on what you need to see in yourself, the cycle breaks. The story changes, and you get to write a new one, not fueled by the need to be chosen again, but by the power of choosing yourself for the first time. And they may never truly realize what they lost, but you'll finally realize what you've been finding all along. Let's take a moment to reflect on what this chapter of your healing journey is really about. When someone avoidant pulls away, what's most disorienting isn't just the silence, it's the way their absence can start to feel like a reflection of your worth. Over time, the relationship trains you to believe that closeness has to be earned, that your value is dependent on their reaction, that if you could just be less or love better, they might finally choose you fully. But healing, real healing, begins when you stop waiting to be chosen and realize you're the one who gets to choose now. In this video, we unpacked 3 core shifts that mark the beginning of reclaiming your power. First, we talked about withdrawing your energy, not to punish them, but to protect your peace. When you stop giving them emotional access, you disrupt the cycle. You break the pattern of overgiving and begin signaling to your nervous system that you are safe, even without their presence. Then we addressed something even deeper: detaching from their validation. Because the most dangerous trap isn't just chasing their attention, it's tying your self-worth to whether they respond, approve, or reach out. Your healing begins when you stop treating their feedback like it's your truth. Finally, we explored what it means to upgrade your life without seeking revenge. Growth that's driven by resentment keeps you anchored to their narrative, but growth that comes from self-respect, that's the kind of healing that doesn't need to be seen to be real. You don't move forward to prove anything. You move forward because you finally remembered who you are without the wound. So here's what I want you to hold close as you continue. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not too much, and you are not unlovable. You were simply loving someone who couldn't meet you. That's not a reflection of your worth. It's a revelation of your clarity. And if all of this resonates, don't rush to change everything at once. Just take the next right step, one thought, one decision, one boundary at a time. Because every quiet move you make toward self-respect, it compounds, and eventually it becomes your new identity, someone who no longer trades their peace to earn someone's presence. You deserve love that doesn't confuse you. You deserve effort that matches yours, and most of all, you deserve to feel like you belong in your own life again. This isn't the end, it's your beginning. If you've made it to the end of this video, I just want to say thank you. Truly, thank you for showing up for yourself, for being willing to look at the hard truths, and for choosing healing over habit. I know how tempting it can be to chase closure from someone who couldn't give you clarity. But the fact that you're here tells me something powerful. You're ready to take your story back. If anything in this video resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment and share what part hit home or what you're working through right now. And if you're looking for more grounded real talk guidance as you navigate love, loss, and emotional clarity, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a video. You don't have to figure this all out alone. This is a space for healing, for honesty, and most importantly, for honoring the version of you who's finally ready to be free. Until next time, I'm Jim Rohn. Be kind to yourself. You're doing better than you think.